It's so good to be back. You know what they say, it's great to go away, it's better to come home. And especially this week as we have re-implemented our Torah processional, which means that I get an opportunity to get close to people. I hope I haven't spread anything. But it's nice to greet people individually again here in the sanctuary. The coincidence of Colin Powell's passing and the advent of Veterans Day this week are not lost on me. Colin Powell was an extraordinary servant of our country, serving both Republican and Democrat presidents. And what struck me so deeply about his funeral yesterday, which I watched, was that while presidents sat in the front row, none spoke. That he was eulogized by family and friend, not by office of high regard. Though any president could have spoken beautifully of his service, it was his family and friends who offered their words of memory. He could have had anybody he wanted speak, for he was a man of extraordinary stature, of high integrity, and abiding commitment to our nation. He was a soldier and a statesman. And this week we recall the many who served our country in wartime and not, in order to create for us a safe place to live. They stood at the ready so that we could live in peace. Colin Powell was the ultimate soldier, and he knew exactly who he was. No need to proclaim to the world his contribution. He knew exactly who he was. A man of quiet confidence, a role model for all of us. And he didn't need a president or two or three to extol his virtue. He knew who he was. Halavai, we could all feel that confidence in ourselves, knowing exactly who we are. Some of us are parents and some are children. Some are sibling and some are friend. Some are spouse. But those are roles. Those aren't who we are. Those are how we act. But they aren't who we are. And it often comes to a singular moment in our lives in which we get to define who we are. A singular choice that defines who we are. And sometimes it's an outside world that defines us, and sometimes it is we ourselves who define ourselves. But I'm here to tell you today that that doesn't have to be. We can reinvent ourselves. We can decide who we're going to be as we move forward in life, no matter how old or how young we are. We get to make the choice each and every day the type of person we're going to be. Will we be helpful or will we be an obstruction? Will we make the world a better place or will we simply take from this world whatever we can? Vayomer lo Yitzchak avi mi ata vayomer ani bincha bechorcha Esav. Yaakov endeavors to trick his father to give him a birthright, and he dresses himself up. He makes believe he's his brother in order to be able to acquire the birthright. And in a singular moment, Yitzchak says to his son Yaakov, "Who are you?" And since the text doesn't have any notation, we don't know how or what the tone is of that question. But I can't help but hear it as, "Who are you?" Not "Who are you?" Not "I have no idea who you are," but "Who are you? What has become of you? Is this the person that I raised alongside a brother?" Ramban says, "Amar lo Yakum avi haya choshev shehu Yaakov." Ramban Nachmanides says he knew exactly who he was. Yitzchak may have been dim of sight, but he knew exactly who his son was. He knew it was Yaakov. And so the question isn't for Yitzchak's edification. The question is to Yaakov, who are you? Who have you become? Is this who you want to be? As the Ber Chaim of Chernovich says, aren't you full of busha uchlima? Chaim of Chernovich says, are you embarrassed at all by who you have become? Aren't you in some way embarrassed of this action? Are you so self-loathing that you can't imagine making it on your own, that you need to steal a birthright? Don't you know this isn't who you are, Yaakov? You're someone else. Esav is one who goes out with his hands and makes a living. You are to make your living with your mind. Who are you? Says Yitzchak to Yaakov, and who have you become? Cantor Daniel Fromer, a major in the United States Army, spoke at Central Synagogue and said that Yaakov and Esav were not twins. They were two sides of the same person. An extraordinary insight that maybe these weren't two separate people, but two sides of an individual. It seems to be the same question that is asked of the four children on Passover. And we ask ourselves the same question: to whom do we most resemble? Are we like the wise or the wicked, the simple or the one who doesn't even know how to ask? Or are, in fact, each of us all of them? Sometimes wise and sometimes evil, sometimes simple and sometimes so lost we don't even have the right questions to ask. This morning's Parsha says to you, says to me, says to everybody who's inspired by the words of Torah, who are you? Are you an Esav or are you a Yaakov? Or are you at times both, struggling between the two worlds? It wasn't lost on me as I sat watching the funeral of Colin Powell this week that I am the son of a captain in the U.S. Army and the father of a corporal in the Israeli army. Like Yitzchak, I find myself between two great generations. A father who had extraordinary contributions to make to the world, and a daughter who stands ready to defend our holy land. Like Yitzchak, I'm the son of Abraham and the father of Yaakov. It's not totally who I am, but it is a part of what helps me to identify with who I ought to become. The state of Israel continues to make contributions to who we are as Jews. We're proud of some of the accomplishments and worried about other activities. It's part of our identity. But there are so many other factors that make us who we are, whether parent or child, whether spouse or sibling, whether friend or foe. This morning's parsha, in the words of Yitzchak, asks the question, Mi ata? Who are you? And once you decide who you are, decide also what you're going to do. This morning's parsha says, don't be like Yaakov in this moment, but be like Yaakov as he was intended to be. This morning's parsha says to each and every one of us, we have a chance tomorrow to try it again. To wake up in the morning and say, this is who I will be from this moment forward. Will I be the joker or the serious scholar? Will I be kind or will I be harsh? Will I be loving or will I stand at arm's length of my fellow human being? Vayomer lo Yitzchak aviv. Our ancestor Isaac, maybe the less of the three ancestor forefathers, asks the most profound question of each and every one of us, Mi ata? So tell me, who are you? Shabbat shalom. Please rise, page 184.